Right, hello everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to a special Pride episode. So today we're going to be sharing some songs, some stories, some poems, all reflecting on Pride, on the resistance and the joy and the love of LGBTQ people and communities. So let's get into it. The first thing that I have to share with you all today is a song that was written by a very dear friend and mentor of mine named Patrick Haggerty. Patrick Haggerty was the founder of the band Lavender Country, which is credited as being the first openly gay country band back in the 1970s. And they released this wonderful album back in the 70s of all gay country music. But Patrick was also a lifetime freedom fighter, activist. He did so much during his lifetime for LGBTQ communities and also for liberation for all. He was really, really big on leaving no one behind, that queer liberation meant liberation for all people. And I was incredibly lucky to get to know him while he was still alive. He had a little bit of a musical resurgence towards the end of his life. Some people picked up the record that he had made with this band during the 70s. And he started to tour again. He actually released an entire other album in his 70s with Lavender Country. And his stage presence, the experience of going to see a Lavender Country show was such a treasure of like a queer elder giving oral history. He would play his songs, but he would also storytell so much. Storytelling about, the AIDS crisis, storytelling about socialist organizing, about trying to defeat white supremacist fascism, white Christian nationalism, wherever he found it, wherever it reared its ugly head. Beautiful, beautiful soul. And so the first song that I want to play for you today is his song called Straight White Patterns. Make sure you can see the bass. Okay. There we go. Wish that I could love you more than the times we stopped to score, the wastelands we've been through before, just because we know them. But our gay glimpses disappear, sabotaged by the guilt and fear. The demons whisper in our ear that we can't show them. We're mannequins, all staunch and clean, while we scheme our hollow dreams. And we don't believe men ought to cry for men, because we're trapped in straight white patterns, and they're coming down again. So pay the price for straight white patterns, and don't think what might have been. We need these spheres to vanish, but it seems we've all been banished to the roles that mold those mannish modes of distance. We never seem to comprehend that love is not some dividend, a plot to get more than we spend, till our resistance, it's ground down to the bone. Our hearts are out on loan, to strangers locked in stilted pantomimes. But we abide in straight white patterns, spend our lives in five and dime, when the price of straight white patterns is surrender to our gender one more time. How much time do we need alone, fighting dragons on our own, while we hang our heads in woe-begone misgiving, waiting for men friends to return, a smile while stoic ulcers churn, guts to grit, when will we learn that gay is for the living? We just lay low and hide our heads and do like we was trained. Our desperation's easy to explain, because we're trapped in straight white patterns, and they're coming down again. So pay the price for straight white patterns, and don't think of what might have been, because we're trapped in straight white patterns, and they're coming down again. So pay the price of straight white patterns, and don't think of what might have been. All right. Thank you, Patrick. Love you, Patrick. Patrick passed away a couple years ago, and always feel his presence whenever playing or listening to his music. Okay, so what I have collected next for all of you is I'm gonna do a little bit of storytelling. I collected some stories from queer history from a variety of different places around the world, and we'll just kind of go through these. And I want to preface this by saying that I am not a scholar of gender and sexuality. I wasn't a gender studies major. You know, I don't engage in this as a scholar or an expert. I consume scholarship about this. But just to preface that, there are people who know far, far, far more about this than I do. And if you are a scholar of this and have criticisms or, thoughts to share about some of the sources that I'm drawing from, I'm all ears. I'm a messenger here. I'm sharing some of the things that I've encountered in trying to read and learn about this. So let's see. Let's start with, I'm going to be reading a couple things from this book, Sapphistries. Let's start with South America. So the story that I collected from this book from South America is about Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, who was a 17th century Mexican nun, self-taught poet, playwright, and scholar whose accomplishments shocked her male contemporaries. And among other things, she wrote love poems to the wife of the viceroy, and thus had come down to us as a Chicana feminist and lesbian precursor. She left these lines: "Don't go, my darling, I don't want this to end yet. This sweet fiction is all I have. Hold me so I'll die happy, thankful for your lies." Don't brag about your conquest. I'm not your trophy. Go ahead, reject these arms that wrapped you in sumptuous silk. Try to escape my arms, my breasts. I'll keep you prisoner in my poem. So I've learned about Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz before. She's very, very interesting. She's totally worth reading a lot more about. Okay, let's go to North America. All right, so this is oral tradition among the Kootenai of British Columbia tells of a female member who married a white fur trader in the early 19th century, but returned a year later announcing that her husband had transformed her into a man. She took the name Gone to the Spirits, began to wear men's shirts, leggings, and breechcloths, and armed herself with a bow and a gun. She courted women until she found one who had been abandoned by her husband and agreed to live with her. Rumor spread that she had... when Gone to the Spirit lost her bow, arrows, and canoe gambling with men, her wife left it in disgust. Gone to the Spirits then took up with a succession of women and also joined raiding and war parties with men. On one expedition, her brother saw her crossing a creek, having removed her clothing, and realized that she had not really been turned into a man. With one of her wives, she took up the task of delivering a letter to Fort Astoria at the mouth of the Columbia River in present-day Oregon, where in 1811 one of the men of the fort reported the arrival of two strange people in the character of man and wife. When the fur trader who had worked with Gone to the Spirit's ex-husband arrived at the fort, he recognized her and told the others that the couple were two women, one of whom had dressed herself up as a man. Another account added in admiring tones that they were bold and adventurous. In 1837, Gone to the Spirits was mediating between the Kootenai and the Blackfoot when she was killed in a raid. And what is clear from the accounts is that her own people came to respect her as a warrior and a prophet, whereas the white traders, who called her man-like woman and also referred to her as a lady, did not know what to make of her. Right. Where shall we go next? Let's go to... This next story is from a book called Boy Wives and Female Husbands, Studies of African Homosexualities. And it's from a chapter about women loving women. The chapter is called When a Woman Loves a Woman in Lesotho. And it centers around, there's a particular woman whose last name is Inthunya, who wrote an autobiography and was a major source for this particular chapter. So I'm going to pick up where the chapter is talking about some of Inthunya's stories. So Inthunya dictated her entire autobiography to me over the 2 years I lived in Lesotho, published as Singing Away the Hunger, Stories of a Life in Lesotho. In it, she describes that in addition to a loving and affectionate, though compulsory, heterosexual marriage, a kind of marriage to a woman that included an erotic dimension. According to Judith Gay, these female marriages were common among women of Inthunya's generation. She writes, elderly informants told me that special affective and gift exchange partnerships among girls and women existed in the old days of their youth. The chapter of Inthunya's autobiography that is most pertinent here is When a Woman Loves a Woman. Inthunya describes how the woman she calls Malineo chose her as her motsale, special friend, with a kiss. She says, it's like when a man chooses you for a wife, except when a man chooses, it's because he wants to share the blankets with you. When a woman chooses you the same way, she wants to love only. When a woman loves another woman, you see, she can love with her whole heart. Inthunya describes the process of their relationship, the desire that characterized it, the kisses they shared, their hand-holding in church, their meetings at the local cafe. And she describes the two ritual feasts observed by themselves and their husbands, recognizing their relationship. These feasts, held 1 year apart, involved the ritual presentation and slaughter of sheep, as well as eating, drinking, dancing, singing, exchanges of gifts, and general merriment, and validation of the commitment they made to each other by all the people they knew. It was like a wedding, Inthunya writes. It would appear from Nthunya's story that long-term loving, intimate, and erotic relationships between women were normative in rural Lesotho at that time and were publicly acknowledged and honored. Gay describes an occasion where she was discussing women's relationships with 3 older women when a 24-year-old daughter-in-law interrupted the discussion by clapping her hands. "Why are you clapping so?" asked the straightforward 97-year-old woman. "Haven't you ever fallen in love with another girl?" And I'm just skipping around a little bit. There is no indication in Nthunya's account that she viewed her relationship with her Motsale as an alternative or a threat to her marriage. She says that her husband and her Motsale's husband were both supportive of the relationship and that she and her Motsale enjoyed kissing and touching, and that in her own case, the heterosexual marriages outlasted the Motsale relationship. So there we go. Let's go next to, this is a book called Female Homosexuality in the Middle East, Histories and Representations. And in this particular part of the book's discussing the term dharifa, which was a term that women used for themselves. It was a term that women who loved other women used for themselves. There's other words in Arabic of that time period that is sometimes used by scholars to describe maybe what we would call lesbians or just sexual behavior between women. But dharifa was a very particular word that women used amongst themselves, and it means witty. It just strikes me as a very lesbian thing, that calling yourself witty is sort of like a clue or a term for being interested in women, for loving women. And so in this chapter, they're sharing some letters between 2 dharifa women. They used to be lovers, but then one of the women decided to go and marry a man. So the spurned lover is writing to the other woman who's left to go marry a man. And that person wrote, "If the muezzin never came down from his minaret, then no one would pray in the mosque. So what is this admiration for a bucket that has been dipped in 1,000 wells and then became yours, when its edges are dented and its rope is corroding? And if you return to what is fair, then you will find that walking in the garden is easier than walking an arduous mountain road." And then the author comments that the author of the book, not the author of the letter, comments, "The infusion of the religious with the sexual is often a trademark in medieval Arab erotology, and this literate grinder, whose writing has been preserved only in the smallest proportion through citation, seems proficient in this form of illusion. The lesbian lover's argument is that sex with men does not lead to gratification, because as long as the muezzin, the leader of prayer, is still in the minaret, an obvious phallic illusion, then the true prayer process, the true devotion, cannot begin. The true prayer and devotion therefore takes place in the lower places, in the dwelling itself." And that writer continues, the lover who's writing these letters continues saying, "My sister, if everyone who saw a walking stick then started walking on it because of whatever weakness he had and benefited from it, then I would have excused you for not being able to walk except with a stick. But there is no admiration for your leaving what is in your nature in order to walk in the darkness, because walking without a stick is better for your body." Interesting. The lover who rejected the woman to go marry a man did write back, and we have a record of the response. And she says, "So make it easy on yourself by not making my fate your business, because it has become easier on me because of the privilege that I now have in my hands." Which is interesting, kind of recognizing the privilege of choosing to marry a man. So just a very interesting snapshot that we have between these 2 dharifa women preserved in letters. Okay, let's go next to, I'm going to read some excerpts from an article from the BBC called "Asia's Isle of 5 Separate Genders." This is writing about Indonesia. So the Bugis people of South Sulawesi are a powerful ethnic group remarkable for its recognition of 5 separate genders, but the future of their unique culture looks bleak. The Indonesian island of Sulawesi sprawls like a drunken starfish in the western Pacific Ocean, its 4 emerald limbs reaching to the Celebes. Molucca, and Flores seas. On its southwestern tip sits the smog-choked port city of Makassar, long and important trading post and Indonesia's eastern gateway to the world. In the gray dawn, I stood on the waterfront and watched the curved prows of prahu sailing ships proceed elegantly into the chaos of the Pautere harbor, here to unload their bounty of sea cucumbers, cuttlefish, and other strange creatures of the deep. These vessels belong to the Bugis people, a seafaring society remarkable for its recognition of 5 separate genders. The Bugis have words for 5 genders, explains Sharon Graham-Davies, an anthropologist at Monash University in Melbourne, Australia, that map onto 5 ways of being in the world. The Bugis are the largest ethnic group in South Sulawesi. Their heartland is in Makassar, in the rice-growing countryside north of the city, but their prowess as seafarers and traders established their influence across Indonesia and the Malay archipelago, and struck fear into the hearts of European colonizers, who regarded them as ruthless pirates. The Bugis are among the strongest ethnic groups in the archipelago, politically, economically, and culturally, said Sudirman Nasir, a Bugis who works in public health in South Sulawesi. Davies explains that in Bugis society, Makunrai and Orowani correspond with Western concepts of cis-female and cis-male. Kalalai are born with female bodies but take on traditionally male gender roles. They may wear shirts and trousers, smoke cigarettes, wear their hair short, and work manual jobs. Kalabai are born with male bodies but take on female gender roles, wearing dresses and makeup and growing their hair long. And Kalabai do not impersonate women, Davies explained, but exhibit their own suite of feminine behaviors that would be frowned upon in Makunrai women. Within Bugis society, Kalabai and Kalalai people may be disapproved of in some quarters, but they are widely tolerated, even seen as playing an important role in society, and are generally not attacked or otherwise persecuted by their own community. The 5th Bugis gender is Bisu, which is considered neither male nor female, but representative of the totality of the gender spectrum. Bisu, like Kalabai and Kalalai, display their identity through dress. They often wear flowers, a traditionally feminine symbol, but they carry the Carries dagger associated with men. Many Bisu are born intersex, but the term has implications beyond biology. While Bugis gender is often described as a spectrum, Bisu are deemed to be above this classification, spiritual beings who are not halfway between male and female, but rather embody the power of both at once. It is said that on their descent from heaven, Bisu did not split and become male or female like most people, Davies explained, but remained a sacred unity of both. As such, they are perceived as intermediaries between worlds and occupy a shaman-like role in the Bugis religion. And I'm just scrolling down in the article a bit. Okay, so Islam began to predominate across Indonesia in the 1400s, but for centuries the local people reconciled their variegated perception of gender with the new faith. European sailors were writing about their reflections on gender diversity in South Sulawesi since at least the 1500s. In 1848, the British colonialist James Brooke wrote in his journal, "The strangest custom I have observed is that some men dress like women and some women like men, not occasionally, but all their lives, devoting themselves to occupations and pursuits of their adopted sex." Upon visiting South Sulawesi, Brooke was further surprised by the social equality he observed between women and men, a sentiment shared by his fellow imperialist, Thomas Stanford Raffles. Let's see. Skipping around a little bit. Towards the end of the article, it says, Bisu, Kalalai, and Kalabai are experiencing a lot of stigma and discrimination, which is sadly increasing alongside the growing assertiveness of political Islam, said Nasir, who was one of the sources from before. So I encourage you to read the full article. It's very interesting, and just talking about the historical presence and very sustained presence of these 5 genders, but how they are coming under continued and more recent threat, and what that looks like for the communities. Okay, let's go to, I think there's just one left. I'm going to read, again, from this book, from Sapphistries. So this is Das lila Lied, It is a rousing anthem of queer pride, flaunted in the face of the rising Nazi threat. So this is a song, the lyrics of a song from the 1920s in Germany. 1920s and probably 1930s, just as the rise of fascism. So here's an English translation of the lyrics of Das Lila Lied, which means the lavender song. We're not afraid to be queer and different. If that means hell, well, hell will take the chance. They march in lockstep, we prefer to dance. We see a world of romance and of pleasure. All they can see is sheer banality. Lavender nights are our greatest treasure, where we can just be who we want to be. Round us all up, send us away. That's what you'd really like to do. But we're too strong and proud, unafraid. In fact, we almost pity you. You act from fear. Why should that be? What is it that you are frightened of? The way that we dress, the way that we meet, the fact that you cannot destroy our love. We're going to win our rights to lavender days and nights. All right. So let's do another song. I'm going to now sing a song that I wrote called Plum Wine in the Night. And this song is a response to a song that Patrick Haggerty wrote. Patrick Haggerty wrote this song, a lavender country song called I Can't Shake the Stranger Out of You, which is about the difficulty that gay men sometimes have, in his lived experience, in finding emotional intimacy. And that internalized homophobia and trauma and things like that prevent that closeness of the heart, that opening up to true intimacy. And so I kind of wrote like a lesbian response, a lesbian version of that, of kind of being guarded, being unable to lean into the true emotional intimacy of a relationship. And it's called Plum Wine in the Night. She tastes like plum wine in the night, warmth in her veins I cannot drink, secrets spilled, wine stains on sheets, but only on her side of the bed. She doesn't see that I still fold my blankets like a guest. Round me to the nearest integer. I never ask for change. Now you cannot make sense of me. Really, who's to blame? She tastes like plum wine in the night, warmth in her veins I cannot drink. Light on pillows, sober waking eyes, all confidences love sure bear, still can't shrift the stranger out of me. Round me to the nearest integer. I never ask for change. Now you cannot make sense of me. really, who's to blame? What I have next for you all, some poetry. So the two poets that I'm going to be reading from are Gwen Benaway and Padraig Ó Tuama. So Gwen Benaway's Holy Wild. It's her third collection of poetry, and it's interwoven both English and Anishinaabe-Moan, or Ojibwe, and it illustrates the wonder and power of Indigenous trans womanhood in motion. So I will say, this is one of the only books that I've ever read cover to cover in the bookstore and then had to take it home with me. It's been a dearly, dearly beloved collection of poetry for a long time. I mean, not that long. It's from 2018, but I encountered it in 2018 shortly after it had come out in Glad Day Bookstore in Toronto, which is one of the Western Hemisphere's oldest LGBTQ bookstores. So let's start with, this is from a series of poems called Boys. So this is Boys number 10. I have never been a boy because I do not kill what I desire with my body. I have always been a girl because I resurrect myself in the night, regrow what men take to never give back. This is my body, the only one I still want. I do not desire men, I desire the woman I am. I cannot forget who I used to be, torn up, praying for him to pull out of me, falling into empty air, looking for salvation, receiving bruises like gifts from heaven. I remember who I am, this girl. She breathes in the empty room. Her breath is holy in her wanting. Her body is as bright as the moon. I am always this girl. I am always this breath. So let's do one from Padraig Ó Tuama, who is an Irish poet. This book, In the Shelter, it's a collection of poems and essays and short stories. In the Shelter, Finding a Home in the World. It explores sexuality, history, violence, and religion in the context of Ireland. So let's go to a poem called Returnings. Returnings. I see her, former colleague, in the baggage area of a foreign airport. Oh, hi, she says, looking awkwardly toward the empty carousel. Then she decides. I hear you're gay now, she says. Are you still a Christian? Oh, how will we tell this story? She to her friends with sadness, curiosity, and prayers for reorientation and returning. Me to mine with sadness, anger, and prayers for refocusing the lenses and returning. And the anger was all mine, but that question was all about her. Should we not just dance instead? I should have said. Together turn a little waltz in the chorus of our own bodies while we wait and wait and wait for something better than the empty carousel of this question. How will we tell this story? How will I tell this story? With sadness, with practicings of little ballroom dances, while we wait, confidently, for what is most important to be returned. Okay, we're going to do another Gwen Benaway poem. This is called phoenix. This is a trans poem. It is two poems in one body, but truth lives in the center. It does not need surgery to fix it. Its preferred pronoun is a multitude. It wants to be effed, but sometimes it wants to F you. I am tired of explaining the fire. It burns because it must. Each flame is a small destiny, igniting the heat of our bodies. This is what you touched, what seared us in the dark of my bedroom. Twin flames reaching out, your hands squeezing embers, sparking. Now we're immolated. Now we have scars that can't fade. Graft new skin to the raised edges. I will not burn for you again. What we brought is not what we asked for. Someday I will forgive you in a forest, release the unanswered words. Someday you will forgive me under a mountain, the wounded echoes. One day we will walk over coals. We will call lightning, learn to pray inside love's furnace without being consumed. But I can only be this sudden torch. You see me now, or you never will. Somewhere on your palm, a streak of me glimmers under calluses. I brand you as holy. Few parts of me are left unchanged, but this light remains. Wildfire, brush blaze, star burnt. This girl is a phoenix. You can't touch me without burning. Okay, let's do one last Pedrogotuma one. This is called The One Thing. The one thing. There must have been some other me, who lived some other time, who realized he knew the one thing that would save me. And he must have found a little window, opened it, and shouted through it. That saving sound that saved me. And he must have felt a failure, I am sure, that other me, because he failed. He did. He didn't save me from the other things that beat me. And he must have sat like some sad god from sadder scriptures and wept at all he failed to do. He had so little time. And all my life, I've been climbing up to the little windows, opening them, and saying the one thing I can say. Thank you. Okay, one more Gwen Benaway poem. This is from a series called Forgiveness, and this is the first poem in the series, Forgiveness. Forgiveness is a road you walk alone toward yourself. At the beginning and end of the road is the shadow of your childhood, asleep in the fallen trees, waiting for you to return to everything you've lost. So I've put in the description, I've put all of the sources, all of the books that we've read from today. And I really do hope that you check them out. They are all very, very much worth interacting with on a deeper level. So I'm going to play one more song for you. This is a song called Pulse, and I wrote it with a friend whose artistic name is Tourmaline the Whale. She wrote the lyrics, I wrote the music. And I frequently play this song and dedicate it to some people that I worked with for a long time. For a number of years, I worked with basically like an underground railroad for LGBTQ people that were leaving Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan. And in particular, I worked with a Syrian couple who did, after a 3-year journey, arrive safely in Canada. And this song Pulse, explores this question of, is there a place where lovers like us can grow old? So that is the hope that I have for the couple that I worked with, and so many other people who have fled or gone into hiding or come out of hiding in order to live and love in the ways that are true to them, that are true to their integrity. And may there be a world where all of those lovers can grow old together. The song is called Pulse. Strike the first chord, but the horn missed a cue. We were talking too loud at the back of the room, where the ancient floorboards creak out of tune when we're walking. So we sit with your dad and resume, spilling our hearts. Only now they are mute faces and gestures, but they ring just as true as before. Or the horn, whose confidence grew when she's taking the solo at the top of page 2. Matches the note being played by the band. The beat comes and goes like the pulse in your thumb, or the lump in my throat as you whisper the stanza of the song that you wrote, where lovers like us aren't afraid to grow old. Then you glance at your dad, 'cause he doesn't know that the girls to his left have kissed on the shoulder of the road and green sedan that we parked in the snow. Just the thought, and I stand, creaky boards start to moan. Then I grab you to dance and hold your hand. Does he know, we're lovers like us, unafraid to grow old? Does he know, does he know, does he know, we're lovers like us, unafraid to grow old? Does he know, does he know, we're lovers like us, unafraid to grow old? Does he know, does he know, does he know, we're lovers like us, unafraid to grow old? Thank you. Thanks for spending some time today, and wishing you all